labor markets by rent-seeking groups, of course in conjunction with uncontrolled government lending and deficit spending, led Greece to achieve prosperity levels of advanced countries until 2008, at the same time as the quality of governance remained similar to that of a developing country. If we look at some figures that would verify these particular growth rates, we can see that until 2008, actually we see three lines here. The one is GDP at market prices. That is the dotted line here. The other one, the greatly, I don't know if you can read this index down here, is in purchasing power standards. Here we can see that after 2000, actually in 2009 we have entered the depression, and from 2009 onwards we are moving in at least 3% minus, the very best, which was in 2010, and this is in real GDP terms. Now, if we look at the problem that we face today, we can see, if we look at the net lending, net borrowing position, that the major problem of the Greek government is that they cannot manage to meet the goal of the fiscal goal. That is, okay, not to at least cut spending, but to generate the earnings, the revenue, the government revenue they have projected in the previous year. And we can see that in the red line, where the dotted line is the maximum deficit in the euro area. And Greece is always beneath that level, at least from 2007 onwards. Now, the Greek sovereign debt crisis is the failure, as I said already, to meet government revenue goals due to ineffective auditing and tax collection mechanism and continuous economic arrangements that have led to bad debt surging. This is a practice that is still used today. It was put into force also in a month ago. Another issue is the public administration corruption, which also maintains the size of the shadow economy, as we have seen in figures previously. And this size of the shadow economy has a negative impact on tax morale, which, as I said, it regards the efficient allocation of public resources. Of course, it is clientelism. You might have read this a lot in the literature, especially in the political literature. Rent-seeking, which is fostered by clientelism, and it is responsible for low competitiveness. Now, the realization is that the window for exiting the crisis, that is the debt deflation trap, which is the outcome of the current policy directions, and resulting into an economic depression. And as I said in the beginning, the only hope, at least in the moment, as we follow this policy mixture, is to try and successfully transfer a part of the underground economy to the formal economy in order to choose an optimal tool that is out of this debt deflation spiral to achieve a level of liquidity that is unattainable, at least with the current policy mixture, and to generate a boost on tax morale, which of course will change expectations. You can see about this subject and many more in the forthcoming book by myself, Professor Pigenis, and Ioannis Papadopoulos. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Vasilis. Could you please go back to the literature slide?
Yes, 1 moment. This one.
Yes, this one. The reason why is that most of you are very young, and myself and Professor Nikas know that one of those studies by Professor Negrepondi Delvani has been done here in this university. Professor Delvani has served as the rector of the university, and this is why I asked you to return. This is why also we have in our library many data from this period of time. Now, you said, Vasilis, that Greece was 9th in the ranking of the shadow of the underground economy, meaning that?
EU 27. That is, if we take the 27 states from number 1. if we take the 27 states of the European Union, from the highest to the lowest size of the shadow economy, Greece is 9th.
That means there are 8 economies that have a larger...
But economies which they are already stated in the literature that you would expect that size of
Because why? Are they transition economies?
Yes.
Or, okay.
And 4th in the Euro area.
All right, so even in the Euro area, there are 3 states that have...
Cyprus, Malta, Estonia.
Okay, I see. And we can... Yes. All right. Now, as you understand, this session was dedicated to the mixture of politics and economics. This is why it is called international political economy. And this is what I always say to my economist friends, that of course it is economy, of course this is their topic and their subject they have studied, but there is also politics that are taking place around the economy, and it is, in my opinion, extremely useful to deal with them as well. So as you've noticed, and as I said in the very beginning, we start with the general problems at the European level, problems at the European level with the Euro and the Euro program, and then we came closer to us dealing with the problems that they were made while we were trying to implement the monetary union in Greece, and one more dimension that was highlighted by Vasilis Vlachos just a few minutes ago. The floor is open to questions, comments. You have the floor. You have an issue using English. You can use Greek for the purpose of the discussion. I will give to you first, since you raised first your hand, and then Yannick. Yes, please. Could you please turn on the microphone and state your name?
I would like to ask Mr.
Could you please state your name? Could you please state your name?
I would like to ask Mr. Nikas if it is feasible to create a monetary system same for every European country, so we will be capable to take us out of crisis. Is it feasible? Is it the key for taking out of crisis? Or is it a crisis of political, ethical, and other monetary factors? Thank you.
Okay. First of all, you may have noticed that this is an ongoing discussion. This is what is in the highlights of the European press nowadays. You may have read this statement made by the French President François Hollande that we should be looking in a different, let's say, model of economic policy in order to come out of the crisis. There will be a day where you will see two main groups of countries within the European Union, and what will be decided will be a compromise, or somehow the German position will be to water down one way or another. You have to, besides politics, you have to know history in order to understand where the Germans stand. The Germans are afraid of anything that would destabilize their economy. They are afraid of inflation, they are afraid of public debt, and so on. So they would starve themselves in order to avoid such a thing, not the Greeks or the Southern European countries. Okay. Why is this? because they have faced extreme problems with hyperinflation in the 1920s. Their economy practically collapsed in that period, and this is what the historians and the politicians say, this is one of the factors which brought the Nazis into power. So for them, asking them to go through a turbulent, let's say, period is not in their mentality. Mind you that Germany is probably the only country in the world where, you know, in the constitution, there are some paragraphs referring to the obligations of the state to its citizens. Germany is probably the only country where inflation control and public finance control isn't in the constitution. So they consider any crisis, any recession, any increase of unemployment tolerable, provided that it does not threaten stability. And unfortunately, there are allies to Germany as far as this procedure is concerned, namely the Netherlands, Finland, and other countries. On the other hand, I believe that somehow the coalition, let's say, is in the process of forming. It's not only the pigs, it's not Cyprus. Sooner or later, what this crisis has brought into surface is that any country may find itself in such a position. Because, you know, it is not really what your public debt is. One can say that, okay, Greece had it coming. But mind you, that all through this period, Belgium, for example, has a higher debt ratio than Greece. So why didn't this happen to Belgium? Because, well, the speculators did not think that Belgium will default. Okay, they thought that Greece will. So try to think, you know, as a patient here. It doesn't matter whether you feel good or your health is really good. It depends on what your doctor believes. If the doctor believes that you are going to die, you will going to die. That's for sure. They have the so-called self-fulfilling prophecies. And according to these prophecies, if they anticipate that your economy will default, they have ways of doing this. So my answer is that there will be a struggle on this. I mean, you can hear the wheels turning. It will not end soon, it will not end easy, but I think that any solution will be better compared to the current situation.
What happens if the head of the family believes that his family is corrupt and needs to die? You don't need to answer that. Yanni.
An orphanage is the solution.
Is our colleague Yannis Parankos again?
Thank you.
Can you use the mic?
The microphone?
Yeah.
Now, my comment, it's mostly a comment, query, and to open the discussion a little bit. And my starting point is Professor Roukanas' statement that the crisis started in 2007 from the subprime housing market collapse. Now, because we've got a lot of students here, let's explain what this means. So you have the prime housing market, which is the market which sells loans for housing to the people that are credit worthy. In other words, that the banks believe that they can pay them off. The subprime market is people that are risky. In other words, you're going to lend them out money to buy houses, which may not be able to pay them off. So, starting with Clinton, there was a massive government policy to increase ownership of housing in the United States through government programs. Okay. And that led into lending into the subprime market. In other words, lending to people that were a bit risky in paying off the house. But it was a government policy that wanted to increase housing ownership. Let me give you an example that, when I was in the United States and I went to the bank to get a home loan, and the banker said to me, look, you can borrow, you're okay, your credit worth it and all that, but I need to tell you something. I said, what? That we may sell your loan. I said, what do you mean? We take the